أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم. تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباءهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكرى وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم وإنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم ولا يمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وعليه ترجعون. أتخذوا من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعدهم من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون. يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون. ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون. وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون. وآية لحم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون. وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون. سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون. وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون. والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم. لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون. وآية لهم أن حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون. وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين. وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون. وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين. وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينصلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في دلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قول من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن يعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أذل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فإنا يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكس في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون لا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلاق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد الشيء أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
أحسنت جزاك الله. أحسنت جزاك الله. جزاक अल्लाह जज़ाक अल्लाह। गुजारिश है ब्रादरम फरूक भाई से कि सलाम पेश करें पर मोहम्मद वाले बुलंद सलवात सल्लल्लाहु मोहम्मद वाले। बिस्मिल्लाह अनम्यूट किए अपने आप को प्लीज।
थैंक यू। सलवात वर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद
अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद।
कहते थे शहीदी मेरे अब्बास कहाँ हो, कहते थे शहीदी मेरे अब्बास कहाँ हो, عباس کہاں ہو، تنہا ہوں کھڑا، تنہا ہوں کھڑا، دشت بلا میں برادر، دیکھو ذرا کر، دیکھو ذرا کر، پالا تھا جنہیں نازوں سے، پالا تھا جنہیں نازوں سے، سوتے ہیں کہاں پر، عباس کہاں ہو، عباس کہاں ہو، دکھتا نہیں اب آنکھوں سے، ہر سو ہے اندھیرا، دکھتا نہیں اب آنکھوں سے، ہر سو ہے اندھیرا، دم رکتا ہے میرا، دم رکتا ہے میرا، دیتا ہے صدائیں علی اکبر میرا مجھ کو، عباس کہاں ہو، عباس کہاں ہو، سینے میں جواں لال کے برچی کی انی ہے، سینے میں جواں لال کے برچی کی انی ہے، تھر آتی زمیں ہے، تھر آتی زمیں ہے، الجھا ہوا برچی میں نا، الجھا ہوا برچی میں نا، اکبر کا جگر ہو، عباس کہاں ہو، عباس کہاں ہو، سینے سے سینہ کھینچ کے، سینے سے سینہ کھینچ کے، اکبر کے سرہانے اس دشت بلا میں، اس دشت بلا میں، تکتا ہوں بسد یاس، تکتا ہوں بسد یاس، دم توڑتے اس کو، عباس کہاں ہو، عباس کہاں ہو، ہاتھوں پہ اگلتا ہے لہو اصغر بیشیر، ہاتھوں پہ اگلتا ہے لہو اصغر بیشیر، گردن پہ لگا تیر، گردن پہ لگا تیر، کیا کہہ کے تسلی دوں میں، کیا کہہ کے تسلی دوں میں، در پہ کھڑی ماں کو، عباس کہاں ہو، عباس کہاں ہو، ننھی سی لحد میں، ننھی سی لحد میں، علی اصغر کو لٹا کر مٹی پہ سلا کر، مٹی پہ سلا کر اٹھتا ہوں کبھی گرتا ہوں، اٹھتا ہوں کبھی گرتا ہوں، تھامے ہوئے دل کو عباس کہاں ہو، عباس کہاں ہو، چلتی ہوئی گردن پہ، چلتی ہوئی گردن پہ چھری دیکھ رہی تھی زینب نے صدا دی، زینب نے صدا دی، سوکھا ہے گلا بھائی کا، سوکھا ہے گلا بھائی کا، پانی تو پلا دو، عباس کہاں ہو، عباس کہاں ہو، چلتی تھی سیاہ دھیاں، چلتی تھی سیاہ دھیاں، خون بکھرا تھا ہر سو، جب کھول کے گیسو، جب کھول کے گیسو، ایک لاش بریداں پہ یہ ماں کہتی تھی رو رو، عباس کہاں ہو، میرے عباس کہاں ہو، عباس کہاں ہو، عباس کہاں ہو، صلوات بر محمد وآل محمد۔
جزاک اللہ عزیز۔ گزارش ہے برادرم صفدر حسین صاحب سے کہ تشریف لائے اور مرسی خانی کا شرف حاصل ہے، اور محمد وآل محمد واعظ بلند صلوات۔
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔
آج 8 محرم ہے، لاسٹ ایئر میری ممی کا فیونرل تھا آج کے دن، تو حاضرین کے مرحومین کے لیے اور ان کے لیے ایک سورہ فاتحہ پڑھ کے صلوات۔
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔
جب صدر زی سے گر پڑے عباس دا وفا، جنگل سے آئی گریے زہرا کی بھی صدا، اکبر نے دوڑ کر شے والا سے یہ کہا، چلیے حضور نہر پہ مارے گئے چچا، بے دس دشمنوں نے کیا اس دلیر کو، روائیے ترائی میں حیدر کے شیر کو، یہ سن کے پیٹے ہوئے اٹھے زمین سے شاہ، فرمایا غضب میرے بچے ہوئے تباہ، یہ کیا کہا کہ آنکھوں میں دن ہو گیا سیاہ، مظلوم سے بچھڑ گیا باسا، مدت ہوئی تمام سکینہ کے چین کی، توڑا فلک نے آج کمر کو حسین، توڑا فلک نے آج کمر کو حسین کی، یہ کہ سوئے نہر چلے شاہ کربلا، بے کانپتے تھے دست شے کے دست پا، اما تھا نہ فرق پہ نہ دوش پر ردا، تصویر غار تھے ہمیں تنصیب تھے مصطفیٰ، مختل کی خاک سے تنے انور ہٹا ہوا، سینہ کھلا ہوا تھا گریباں پھٹا، سینہ کھلا ہوا تھا گریباں پھٹا ہوا، پہنچے جو ہیں ترائی میں بادی دو پر آب، دیکھا تپائے خاک پہ فرزند بو تراب، شانوں پہ کی نظر تو جگر پر رہی نہ تاب، بس ہائے بھائی کہہ کے گرا وہ فلک جناب، بیکار دست و پا تھے شہ خوش کے سال کے، لے آئے لاش تک علی اکبر سنبھال، لے آئے لاش تک علی اکبر سنبھال کے، مورا کے خون بھرے ہوئے چہرے پہ دی صدا، بھیا حسین آیا ہے آواز دو ذرا، ہے ہاتھ دونوں ہاتھ بدن سے ہوئے جدا، بازو کے صدقے ان تیرے شانوں پہ میں فدا، بھیا ہمارے ہاتھ تو بیکار ہو گئے، تم ہاتھ ہو کے جعفر تیار ہو، تم ہاتھ ہو کے جعفر تیار ہو گئے، سن کر صدائے حضرت شبیر نامدار، کھولا لہو بھری ہوئی آنکھوں کو ایک بار، سر کے پائے شہ پہ یہ بولا وزیر خار، تشریف آپ لائے زیز و افتخار، جی چاہتا ہے یہ کہ نثارے حضور ہوں، کس طرح اٹھ کے گرد پھروں چور چور، کس طرح اٹھ کے گرد پھروں چور چور ہوں، بیٹھے ہیں آپ اور میں لیٹا ہوا کیا دور ہے حضور اگر بخش دے گناہ، سر شاخ زرد گرد سے شاہ دی پناہ، کروٹ بھی اب تو لے نہیں سکتا یہ خیر خواہ، دکھتے ہیں بولنے میں جراحت پڑے ہوئے، دیکھے حضور میرے بازو کٹے، دیکھے حضور میرے بازو کٹے ہوئے، مورا کے منہ پہ کہنے لگے شاہ خوش خصال، عباس میں کن آنکھوں سے دیکھوں تیرا یہ حال، اس دم بھی ہے تمہیں میرے آداب کا خیال، جب ہوں گے ذبح ہم تو کسے ہوئے گا ملال، صدقے حسین تیرے تنے پاش پاش کے، ایک بار ہم کو گرد تو پھرنے دو لاش، ایک بار ہم کو گرد تو پھرنے دو لاش کے، یہ سن کے اس دلیر نے ایک سرد آہ کی، مشکیز پر تڑپ کے بحثرت کا کی، मुँह शर्म से उठा लिया गर्दन पे शाह की, हालत तबाह हो गई हैदर के माँ की। जब दिल को बेकली हो तो किस तरह कल पड़े, जानू पे शके आंखों से आंसू निकल, जानू पे शके आंखों से आंसू निकल पड़े। फरमाया शहने किस लिए रोते हो बार बार, लो आप कुछ अपना हाल कहो तुम पे मैं निसार। क्या जी पे है बनी में जो तड़पते हो बार बार, की अर्ज इस जरीने के है वक्त इंतजार। आका से छूटने का खलक है गुलाम को, पाऊंगा अब कहाँ शह गर्दू मकाम, पाऊंगा अब कहाँ शह गर्दू मकाम को। ये कहते थे कि फिर गई आंखों की पोतलियां, हिचकी के साथ आ गई सूखे लबों पे जान, हसरत से देख कर तरफ शाहीन सुजा, दुनिया से कूच कर गए अब्बास नौजवान। छोड़ा जरी ने साथ शह माशरकैन का, ये गुल उठा के मर गया आशिक हुसैन, ये गुल उठा के मर गया आशिक हुसैन, ये गुल उठा के मर गया आशिक हुसैन का।
जज़ाकल्लाह जज़ाकल्लाह, माशाल्लाह सदर, जज़ाकल्लाह। आज के स्पॉन्सर मोहतरमा नफीस हसन साहिबा की तरफ से एक फरमाइश की गई है कि मरसी के कुछ बंद पेश किए जाएं। हुक्म तामील करते हुए मरसी के चंद बंद पेश करना चाहूँगा। सल्लल्लाहु मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद,
अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद।
फातिहा। जब इब्ने बुतुरा बरुए जमी गिरा, बदस्त हो के खाको मजबी गिरा, और हाथ एक तरफ अलमे शाह कहीं गिरा, चिल्लाई फातिमा के मेरा नाज नहीं गिरा, चिल्लाई फातिमा के मेरा नाज नहीं गिरा। करता है कोई दम में सर उस नौजवान का, मिलता है अब निशान अली के निशान का, मिलता है अब निशान अली के निशान का। सुनते ही सदा के शहंशाह बरबर, दौड़े गिरे उठाना संभाला गया जिगर, कांपे जो पाँव थम लिया बाजू ए पिसर, चिल्लाते कहो अली अकबर चले किधर, चिल्लाते से कहो अली अकबर चले किधर। मजमा हटाओ फौजे सितम का तराई से, बेटा मिला दो जल्द मुझे मेरे भाई से, बेटा मिला दो जल्द मुझे मेरे भाई से। अकबर उजड़ गया मेरा घर, वाह मुसीबता सीधी न होगी अब ये कमरवा मुसीबता है, आज ताजा दागे पिदरवा मुसीबता, काटा गया छुरी से जिगरवा मुसीबता, काटा गया छुरी से जिगरवा मुसीबता। पुरसादो दो नजफ की तरफ मुंह को मोड़ दो, सभी डर चलूंगा मेरे हाथ छोड़ दो, सभी डर चलूंगा मेरे हाथ छोड़ दो। अकबर करीब लाश जो लाए हुसैन को, عباس جہاں پلب نظر آئے حسین کو تڑپا وہ شیر سن کے صدائے حسین کو اکبر نے ہاتھ اٹھا کے دکھائے حسین کو اکبر نے ہاتھ اٹھا کے دکھائے حسین کو دو کوئے غم کی دل پر جو ایک بار گر پڑے پہلو میں لاش کے شہر گر پڑے پہلو میں لاش کے شہر گر پڑے ہے کچھ وصیتیں میری اس وقت یا امام ان میں سے ایک ہے تصدق جب غلام ساحل سے لاش اٹھ کے نہ جائے سوئے قیام جس پر پڑا ہو قبر کا بھی ہو وہی مقام جس جا پڑا ہو قبر کا بھی ہو وہی مقام سر کے ناقا نزاد امام دلیر کا مسکن رہے ترائی حیدر کے شہر کا مسکن رہے ترائی حیدر کے شہر کا اور دوسری عرض ہے پیشینے گزخو شہزادیاں محل سے نہ نکلے خوشادمو دیکھے نہ کے بالی سکینہ میرا لہو اور ایک مرتے مرتے ہے دل کی آرزو اور ایک مرتے مرتے ہے دل کی آرزو آئے لد میں بوئے امام زمن مجھے بخشے حضور اپنی عبا کا کفن مجھے بخشے حضور اپنی عبا کا کفن مجھے سن کر یہ حال دل پر لگا اور تیر غم روئے لہو کے اشکوں سے عباس زی اشم اتنا کہا کہ رہ گئے شرمندہ اسے ہم پہنچاتے مشق ہاتھ نہ ہوتے اگر قلم پہنچاتے مشق ہاتھ نہ ہوتے اگر قلم کچھ بس چلا اجل سے نہ اس بے قصور کا مجبور ہو گیا ہے حضور کا مجبور ہو گیا ہے حضور یہ سن کے پاشا کی جانب چکایا سر کانپے لہو بھری ہوئی آنکھوں کو کھول کر تب کے مجا سے خون کے خطرے ادھر ادھر کس یاد سے حسین پہ گیا اپنی نظر کس یاد سے حسین پہ گیا اپنی نظر من کا جری کا ڈھل گیا بھائی کے سامنے بھائی کا دم نکل گیا بھائی کے سامنے بھائی کا دم نکل گیا بھائی کے سامنے اللہ Respected viewers, thank you very much for joining the Noor Majalises. Inshallah, until 12th of Muharram, Majalises will continue. 6:30 the program starts and followed by Surah Yasin, Soz and Marcia, and then Maulana Sayyid Haider Hasnain takes the pulpit for the lecture of the night. 3 more nights, 4 more nights, just hardly any few more days left for you to contribute and take part and participate in this pious cause, in this great cause. Do whatever you can in this way by sponsoring the majalises or rendering the names of your marhumin to Surah Fatiha. As I mentioned, even whom's amount you can send us. And it's a pleasure to see the youngsters coming to recite Surah Yasin. Inshallah, tomorrow also, one of the Al-Noor child is going to be. Today also we tried to get him online due to some technical hitch. He could not recite Surah Yasin. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll try to bring him again. It's a big opportunity for you all to send your children to Al-Noor, which runs consistently and very successfully the Quran classes on one-to-one basis. We have all got great Muallim in form of Sheikh Abu Jawad, who gives one-to-one Quran lessons to the children. So please feel free to take out some time and get your children to Al-Noor to learn Quran, inshallah. I'd like to now request Maulana Sayyid Haider Hasnain to please begin with the lecture tonight. But Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, बहुत से बुलंद सलावत.
Allahumma
salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها على جميع نعمه كلها والصلاة والسلام على عبده المرتضى ورسوله المجتبى وحبيبه المصطفى الذي سماه في السماوات أحمدا وفي الأرض أبا القاسم محمدا وعلى الأطيبين من آله البررة سيما حجة الله الباقية صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة فيا ليتنا كنا معك سيدي فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. For the heart of Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Askari salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, to be pleased with every single one of us. Wherever you are, illuminate your heart by raising your voice in reciting salawat upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad wa ajil farajah. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We begin by thanking Allah and praising Him for the tawfiq to be able to gather and remember Himself and remember His beloved ones. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We thank the sincere brothers and sisters who are making this possible. As our religion is teaching us, one who does not thank the creation has not thanked the Creator. This doesn't mean we ignore Allah and only thank the creation. No. We thank both. We thank Allah as He is the source of all goodness. And He is the real one running the show. But we also thank His creation because it's what He's ordered us to do. And I have to mention here, I thank my dear wife for helping making this possible. She's in the background trying to ensure that everything goes smoothly. Sometimes we don't, not sometimes, a lot of the time, I dare say much of the time, we don't acknowledge our sisters, our wives, our mothers and our daughters as much as we should. And inshallah, we'll speak about this in the coming nights. We have some nights remaining, inshallah, we'll speak about this issue. Very important issue. If it wasn't for the ladies in Karbala, you and me wouldn't know anything about Karbala. If it wasn't for the lady Zainab alayhi salam, none of us would have heard of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam today. You know? Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas carried the flag of Abu Abdullah till the day of Ashura. But from the Asr, the afternoon of Ashura, the flag bearer of Abu Abdullah was none other than Lady Zainab alayhi salam. This isn't a joke. we haven't honored our sisters as much as we should have honored them. But inshallah, for another night. As for our discussion regarding verses of the Quran and the human being, we came to a point where we understood that taqwa, piety, is the only way for a human being to ascend. Now, taqwa has levels. Level 1, level 2, level 3, and you can't skip any levels. You have to traverse levels one after another. As the narration says, faith or taqwa, I'm doubting which one it is now. It's like a ladder, has steps like the steps of a ladder. In one place of the Quran, Allah says, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. O human beings, have taqwa of Allah, be conscious of Allah, as much as you're able to, as much as your ability, because Allah, one of His rules is what? لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. And no soul does Allah place a burden it can't bear. You're only asked to do as much as you can do. But in another place of the Quran, so for you, or especially for me, for us, it's فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. My brother, my sister, whatever situation you're in, as much as you're able to, as much as your ability, your capacity is, be pious. Have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But for those who traverse these levels and gone very high, Allah says what? اتقوا الله حق تقاته. This is amazing. Have taqwa of Allah as much as Allah Himself deserves for you to have taqwa. You know what that means? It means a human being can become so great. His capacity can become so huge and tremendous. He is able to have taqwa of Allah to the extent Allah is worthy of. Subhanallah al-Azim. This is our potential. But for you and me, for now, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Have taqwa as much as you can. When you feel your capacity will increase. What is the practical implementation of taqwa? What is the practical way to implement taqwa, brothers and sisters? The practical way to implement taqwa, because yesterday we spoke about death. Death is a good reminder for us. The more we remember death, the more we visit the graves, the more we have it in front of our eyes, the more we're going to be encouraged to have taqwa. But how do we actually apply taqwa practically? The way we apply taqwa practically, according to what the Ahlul Bayt have taught us, what the Quran has taught us, and what the students of Ahlul Bayt, these magnificent, great ulama and spiritual teachers have taught us, is by something called al-muraqabah and al-muhasabah. What is al-muraqabah? What is al-muhasabah? Al-muraqabah means in every single one of your actions, from the moment you get up in the morning till the moment you go to sleep, before you do anything, before you say anything, you consider Allah's pleasure. Is Allah pleased with this or not? And if He, on the first level muraqabah is the following: if He is displeased with it, if it's haram, in other words, if it's forbidden, if it's a sin, if it's a veil, you avoid it. You repeat this every single day of your life, day in, day out, until it becomes second nature. And what is al-muhasabah? These are like two wings, they go together. Al-muhasabah means at the end of each day, before you go to bed, before going to sleep, you sit down alone, without a mobile phone, without any distraction, without anyone making noise. You sit down alone with yourself and Allah, and you take yourself to account. What did I do today? Oh, nafs, tell me. Oh, self, tell me. Oh, Haider, what did you do today from the moment you got up in the morning to the moment you were sleeping? When we try and do this, sometimes what happens is we can't remember everything. The practical solution is the following. You have a few moments in the day. For example, one moment in mid-morning, some moments after Dhuhr prayer, one moment after Maghrib prayer, and some moments before you go to bed. Different moments of the day, you sit down and you take yourself to account. What have I done in these few hours? What this will do is it will show you where your mistakes are. It will show you your faults, so the next day, you know where to focus more. One person, they don't realize that their fault is they speak without thinking. when they sit down and realize, oh my Lord, I swore today, I backbited today, I hurt someone today, they realize, aha, my biggest problem is I can't control my tongue. So the next day, they're more focused on controlling their tongue. You know what? There's one narration from Al-Imam Al-Kadhim alayhi salam, Bab al-Hawaj. Do you know what he says about muhasabah? It's related. He says, one who does not take himself to account every day is not from us. Meaning what? It's not from us. You're not connected to the Ahlul Bayt if you don't do muhasabah every day. You think being Shi'i, being a follower of Ahlul Bayt is just by the tongue? Allah says in the Quran, do people think they'll be left alone to say they believe and we won't test them? Look at the narrations of Ahlul Bayt that speak about who their followers are. One of the qualities of a Shi'i, someone who follows the Ahlul Bayt, is he or she prays 51 units of prayer every single day. 17 are obligatory, the others are recommended. Do we do that? Is it even in our mind? No one's saying start from tomorrow. Don't overburden yourself. There's a process behind it, right? But we need to be in this way. We need to be progressing day after day, and we will not progress unless we're doing muraqabah and muhasabah. Every one of us, every day of our lives. The narration says, take yourself to account before you are taken to account. A person who does muraqabah and muhasabah well during his life, he's not afraid at the time of death. Why? Because he's taken himself to account. He's done istighfar for his sins. He's sought Allah's forgiveness. He's rectified himself. He's given back the rights he's taken from other people. He's clean to go. But someone who hasn't accounted for themselves in their lives, they don't know what they're going to face on the Day of Judgment. It's like that shed in the backyard that everyone's afraid to go into because no one's been in there for a year. It's filled with cobwebs and spiders and mice and God knows why, because you haven't cleaned it. That shed is your heart, my heart. A mu'min opens the shed and cleans it every day by muraqabah and muhasabah. But a person who doesn't, God knows what filth is lying inside this shed. But the door to that shed will be open on the Day of Judgment. You'll be forced to enter it on Judgment Day. Whatever you reap here, you will sow there. So the practical way of doing muraqabah and muhasabah is, of having taqwa is muraqabah and muhasabah. Now, what is it that we need to stay away from in the first level? The first level of at-taqwa, what we're looking for in muraqabah and muhasabah is sins. Sins. But I don't know what the sins are. There you go. The prerequisite to having taqwa is knowledge. If you don't know what the sins are, how can you stay away from them? And therefore, Islam says seeking knowledge is wajib, obligatory on every Muslim man and every Muslim woman. Wajib, it's not optional. If you want to elevate as a human being, you need knowledge. Once an alim came to Ayatollah Bahjat rahmatullah alayh, that magnificent spiritual master and scholar. May Allah make perfume and radiate his grave more and more, moment by moment. He said, Shaykh, my daughter wants to study in the Hawza. My daughter wants to seek Islamic knowledge. What's your opinion? You know what he said? He said, knowledge is life. Is it possible to deprive a woman of life? And some people, they come and they say, if our women study, they'll get arrogant. Men study, they get arrogant. So the problem isn't with the studying, the problem is the arrogance. Remove the arrogance, don't remove the studying. Like someone who comes and says, when I go to Salatul Jama'ah, I feel I'm showing off. So I'm not going to go Salatul Jama'ah. My friend, go Salatul Jama'ah, go pray in congregation, stop showing off. Why are you getting rid of the good thing you're doing? Get rid of the bad thing. So knowledge is a prerequisite of taqwa. Knowledge of the religion. Knowledge of the sins. You don't have that knowledge, there's no way you can have taqwa. Because you don't know what to stay away from. Some people will come on Judgment Day. It's related. I believe it's a narration. Allah will ask them, why didn't you act? Why didn't you do the actions you were meant to do? They'll say, we didn't know. But Allah won't accept that excuse. It will be said to them, why didn't you learn? Allow me to put it this way, my friends. My own self, Sayyid Haider, is speaking about Islam, doing the easiest thing in the world to give speeches about Islam. You have time for everything else. You have time for your studies, your academic endeavors. You have time for your career. You have time for your parents. You have time for your friends. You have time to socialize. You have time for your sleeping and eating and having fun. You can watch a football game, soccer game for 90 minutes, but you can't spend 15 minutes of the day learning your religion? Wasn't important for you. I didn't know. We have to wake up. The narration says people are sleeping. Majority of people, they're sleeping. They're in a state of spiritual unconsciousness. When they die, they're going to wake up. But what's the point of waking up after you're dead? You can't do anything. We can't spend 15 minutes a day learning about our religion. Or we can spend 90 watching some men in shorts kick a ball around a field. May Allah have mercy on us and guide us. I'm saying this for myself. Why, dear brothers and sisters, and from now I'm going to say this. What I'm saying now, I'm not representing anyone. I'm not representing Noor. I'm not representing Hausa. I'm representing only myself. Because I feel there's a responsibility to speak about this issue. Why is it that Karbala is always relevant? Why do we come every single year and repeat this story and relive those moments? Why? Why? Do you know why? Because there are two places where Karbala, that battle, is still taking place. Two places. We go and revisit the events of Ashura in order to drink at that ocean of light, to get energy, to get direction, to be able to choose the right side in both these battles, which are taking place in two places. The first place, the first place Karbala is happening is outside of yourself, in the world around you. And the second place Karbala is happening is within your own self, within this heart, within this nafs, this soul. There's a battle going on. Now you'll have some people, they'll come and they'll only focus on the Karbala outside, right? You speak to them, you think Islam is nothing except politics. But you get to know them, it's, where is Imam Hussein in your life? Where is that purity, that sincerity? Where are your prayers with presence of the heart? Imam al-Hussein asked for another night so he could pray a little longer, read Quran a little longer. Quran isn't part of your life, but you're very good in politics. Following what's going on in the world, condemning the oppressors, mashallah, it's a good quality. We're not saying don't do that, we're saying don't limit yourself to that. And don't make the religion only that. Because you know what? If you haven't done this battle inside you, you will fail in that battle outside of yourself. You'll fail in that battle outside of yourself. And there are others who they make Karbala to be only this. Only this, the battle within. There is no responsibility regarding the outside world. There is no responsibility regarding the oppressed. Everything's good, everything's good, everything's great. Oblivious, indifferent. Have we not heard that narration from our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where it's related? He says that one who wakes up in the morning and is not concerned about the affairs of Muslims is not from them. And one who hears a person calling, "Oh, Muslims, help me," and doesn't respond is not from them, is not a Muslim. Interesting. The narration doesn't say one who hears a Muslim calling for, no, anyone, any human being on the face of this earth who needs help is, "Oh, Muslim community, help me," and we're indifferent. The narration is saying, you're not a Muslim. Come every year, remember Ashura, remember Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, and we don't say a word about the oppressors of today? Not a word? Our brothers and sisters in Yemen, 14 million people on the verge of death because of hunger. Go to the internet and search Yemen child, Yemen kid, something like that. See, have you seen these children, these pictures? You can see their rib cages. There's no flesh on their bones. They're skeletons with these huge eyes that are piercing into your heart. And we're living our comfortable lives. These are the orphans of Sahib al-Zaman. We're happy doing our majalis and programs and our cars and houses, and well, my kids are okay, so everything's good to go. 1 million Muslims in concentration camps in China. Some of our sisters being forced to marry non-Muslims. Why? So that the line and lineage of Muslims is severed in that country. Nothing to say about that. Nothing. We're here for Imam Hussein. What's that got to do with China or Yemen? The oppression taking place to our brothers and sisters in Nigeria, our beloved Sheikh Zakzaki, who called to Islam, called to the Quran, called to Ahlul Bayt. Millions became followers of Ahlul Bayt. Nothing to say about that. Nothing. That's politics. Bahrain, the crimes of Al Khalifa. How many years has it been since our brothers, I remember in London, and sisters were outside that embassy every single Wednesday, protesting. Some of them going on a hunger strike, trying to bring attention to this cause, using any means possible that's legal, okay, to bring attention to this cause. How many years has it been? Palestine. Past days, you haven't heard about this probably if you haven't been following, if you've only been following the Western media, probably haven't heard about this. Maybe you have, I don't know. Gaza is being bombed again. It's just so normal to hear that, right? Gaza is being bombed. We're so tired of hearing that phrase because it happens all the time. It's normal. Gaza is being bombed. You know, Corona is also in these countries too. So concerned about Corona. Imagine if you're living in Gaza, you couldn't survive a day. I couldn't survive an hour in Gaza or Yemen. And the list goes on. Amazing, incredible. The power of media. The power of media. They can make the oppressed look like the oppressors and the oppressors look like the oppressed. There is no community on the face of this earth that's been a greater victim of terrorism than the Muslim community. Yet who is it that's expected to apologize every single time there is a so-called terrorist attack? The victim is expected to apologize. ISIS killed more Muslims by far than any other community. Yet Muslims have to apologize for ISIS and justify themselves. What's our responsibility? Recently, in the past days, I'm sure the brothers and sisters are aware, that the US regime has imprisoned some of our brothers. Just read the charges against them. Just go and read the official line, the official analysis they're giving. You know, it's as if not only is it enough that Yemen is being bombed and the people are being starved and children, that's not enough. But anyone trying to help the Yemenis fight hunger, fight to live, even that is enough to make you a terrorist these days. And you know why this works at times? Because of what we mentioned a few days ago. We are imprisoned by our fear, and we raise our children to be imprisoned by our fear. Isn't that the case sometimes? No one is saying break the law of your country. Be law-abiding citizens. But when the law is allowing you to have freedom of speech, you can use your social media to take selfies. You can't use it to spread a word about Yemen or Bahrain or Palestine. We can't use it for that. Only has to be to show our petty little materialistic lives and desires. Is that against the law too? To the families of these brothers, because you know, when someone's arrested, taken to prison, the whole family suffers. It's not the struggle of one man or two men. These families, what are they going through? Feel ashamed that we can't do more for these families. But our du'as are with you. Remembering you, we pray for you. And you're an example for this ummah. You're an example. How are we raising our children, by the way, brothers and sisters? How are we raising our children? Lady Zainab raised her children to be gifts to Imam al-Hussein. That's where she saw their perfection. How do we raise them? You know what's really sad, brothers, and forgive me for speaking so openly, but these are nights of Muharram, they're not nice to play around with, and you know, these majalis are not shows, are not entertainment places. This is the member of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussein was saying to his companions, do you not see that haqq, truth, is not being acted upon? Do you not see that evil is not being forbidden? In such a condition, a person should wish to meet his Lord. He couldn't bear this condition. How are we raising our children? You know what's sad? When this young man or young lady, you know, a youth has passion, has love, and has a pure heart, right? With all that passion and love, this youth now wants to go where? He or she is moved by a certain cause, a cause for justice. They want to go and protest, which is in their legal rights to protest. Sometimes the parents are the first one to stop them. Why? Why are we teaching our children to be afraid? This is the job of Satan. Don't go, the police will get you. Don't go, they'll get your footage. Don't go. So you're teaching your children to be a slave of Allah or a slave of their fear. You'll go to prison. All these ridiculous things that people come up with. You should be proud that instead of going to a place of indecency, your son or daughter wants to go and use their voice to protest for the oppressed. It's a source of pride. They could be busy in their materialistic lives. I don't know what crime has the US regime not done against humanity? You know, what crime is left for us to wake up and realize that Karbala today is this? What else needs to be done? What? Torture? It's been done. Assassinations? It's been done. Economic sanctions? It's been done. taming, destroying someone's reputation in the media. It's been done. When will we open our eyes and realize that the US regime is the most oppressive regime on the face of planet Earth? Founded on the enslavement of one people and the genocide of another. Continues until the same arrogant policies until today continues. You know what their biggest weapon is? It's not their atom bombs. It's not their tanks. It's not their wealth. You know what their biggest weapon is? A weapon that you're holding for them and I'm holding for them. And that is your own fear and my own fear. Tonight we come to remember Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. al-Baneen raised their children like lions, and we raise our children like mice. What are we scared of? No one's saying break any laws. Use the freedoms you have. Allah will ask us. Is that how sunk we are into the lowly life of this world? I'm speaking to myself or for anyone else. Don't raise your children to be mice. Raise your children like Lady Zainab. Raise Ali Akbars. Raise Qasims. Raise Aoun. Raise Muhammad. These are our role models. These are our role models. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Once, it's very painful. It's very painful when someone, a young man, young woman, the youth, it's like they have wings, they have this passion and love. Sometimes that your son or your daughter, they have a love for their religion and they want to study the religion. That's the path they want to take. And I'm not saying everyone should come to Hawza. No, not everyone's meant to come to Hawza. Go after whatever you're meant to go after. But do it for the sake of Allah. Meaning for the sake of your own elevation, not for the sake of a worldly purpose. The Imam needs different people, right? Everyone's one piece of a jigsaw. Everyone's filling one gap. But one gap we have without any doubt is we don't have enough people studying the religion to be that bridge between the youth and the Ahlul Bayt of the Quran. We don't have that. You know what? That gap's not going to get filled from the heavens. We have to fill that gap. It's our responsibility. Sometimes you have a youth, a young man, a young woman. They come forward and the parents know that, this person is interested in Islam and they want to go to Hawza now. Everyone starts giving them reasons for not going to Hawza. Everyone. And some years later, it's so painful to see this. You saw a friend of yours who had that potential, that love, that fire. And if they would have come to Hawza, this was their dream. If they would have come to Hawza, they would have ascended and been from the bright faces of this religion and helped the Muslim community and non-Muslim community in the future. This person could have been a zaki for themselves. But you see them 10 years later, and what are they doing? Normal job like everyone else, married, kids, mediocre Muslim, not doing much with their lives, not doing much with their potential. And they come and say, yes, I saw the light. My father spoke to me and he made me see the light. He didn't make you see the light, my friend. You had wings, he severed them. Parents, don't sever the wings of your children. Don't do that. Don't put water on that spark inside them. They're not yours. They're Allah's. It's related once, there is a great scholar, Sheikh Hasnain Isfahani, rahmatullah. He's relating this story towards the end of his life because his family insisted. He says that, and I'm paraphrasing, he says that, when I was 15, 16, the love of studying Islam in Hawza entered into my heart. I wanted to serve the Imam. This love, this purity, this innocence. Everyone was against me, especially my parents. They were against me. So, but I insisted. I said, I have to go. That spark lit inside his heart. I have to go. My parents were against me. They did everything. They got every single relative to speak to me and make me stop. Anywhere but Hawza, anywhere but that place, right? Unfortunately, some fathers are like this. Anywhere but Hawza. Don't go anywhere but the place that Sahib al-Zaman is looking at. Anywhere, anything but serving the religion, anything but that. That's so the most repulsive thing you can do. They did everything to make me stop, but I had to go. They spoke to the elders, do anything to stop this insanity of my son. But I had to go. That is Imam, Allah, religion, Islam were important to me. He goes, you know, his father didn't help him at all. And back in those days, before the Islamic Revolution, oh my Lord, it was so difficult. How do you know how Islam came to us? Sometimes some students in the past, students of Islam, they would sleep hungry. It's normal to sleep hungry, normal to sleep hungry. But they'd continue going. He says, you know, I went to house and my father, my mother, they were upset, but I had to go. I felt this was my responsibility. So I went, and you know what? Because I was receiving no help from my parents whatsoever, what I'd do is, you know how I'd eat, what my dinner would be, what I'd eat? I got a dormitory there. I had a room there in this madrasa, the school. I'd go on Thursday, Friday, I wouldn't go and rest and sleep. I would go and work outside of the city, somewhere no one I knew would see me. I'd work, difficult work, to get some money. With that money, I would buy, you know, in those days, the leftover bread of people that they wanted to throw away. They would sell it. Someone can use it. I would buy that. That would be my dinner every night. Leftover bread. But I kept studying, 15, 16-year-old. I kept studying because I felt this is what Allah wants me to do. I kept studying. And sometimes on a good night, Allah would make someone bring, you know, some vinegar for me. What I do is I take those pieces of bread, dip them in vinegar, mixed with water, and that would be a brilliant meal for me. And he said it was cold. I only had one mat, and this one abba. When I'd sleep in winter, I'd put the mat underneath, put half of this abba underneath me, the other half would be my blanket. And my pillow would be my slippers. This is real. It's not a story, brothers and sisters. It's real. I have too many of these stories. This is how Islam reached us. Not by means of comfortable beds and huge mansions and fancy cars. So he says, I was fine with the cold. I was fine with the heat. I was fine with the hunger. The one thing that would bother me inside would be that my parents were not happy with me. I'd continuously do dua, oh Allah, make my parents happy with me. I want their pleasure. But to no use. My father would speak to other people saying, you know, I'm so upset with my son. Go and speak to him. I tried to speak to people. I tried to speak to the ulama of Isfahan, speak to my father. It had no effect. When these fathers was, you know, sometimes us as fathers, our hearts are harder than a stone, right? We think we're doing our children a favor. So 2 years go by, his father's still unhappy with him. Until one night, he's getting up for his night prayer, Salatul Layl. And, you know, he really is very broken. He said, oh Allah, please make my parents happy. I want the pleasure of my parents. You yourself said, وَلِوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Be good to your parents. I want this but I've chosen your way. Turn the hearts of my parents. I want them to be happy with me. So he is praying and he gets very, very tired. He sleeps. He says, in my dream, I saw that there were lines of angels. The heavens had opened and plenty of angels were there. And I heard a voice saying, Ziyaratu Ashura, Ziyaratu Ashura, Ziyaratu Ashura. And the angels began reciting Ziyaratu Ashura, this visitation of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, in the most beautiful voice. I woke up and I realized what I have to do. He said, from that day on, for 40 days, I said, after every Fajr prayer, I'll recite Ziyaratu Ashura. He began. And he had this new hope in his heart that hopefully my parents, they will change. To no avail. He sent one of his friends during this time, see if my father's changed. His friend came back. He said, you know what, Hassan, I have bad news for you. Your father, not only has he not changed, he says, if my son does not come back into my house and doesn't leave studying Islam, he is not my son any longer. It's this emotional talk that some of us parents are so good at doing. He said, my heart broke. He said, that night I slept and I had a dream. Once again, I saw a certain beautiful scene and I was given the news that basically, don't worry, it's going to be okay. That morning I woke up after the Fajr prayer. This is the final Ziyarat Ashura, the 40th. He said, with my whole existence, my only hope was in this ziyarah. I recited this ziyarah. He said, after I recited the ziyarah, someone knocked on my room. This room had nothing inside, just the straw mat on the ground. Nothing inside. Someone was behind the door. I opened the door. It was dark. It's not light yet. It's dark. There is no electronic lights at that time. He used candles. He probably couldn't afford a candle. Who's behind the door? It was my father. He says, Hassan, is that you? He couldn't see properly. He's like, oh, my beloved father, it's me. He said, I saw my father. His face was filled with love and affection and humility. And he said to me, Hassan, where do you live? Because he didn't think anyone could live in this place, this room that was empty with one straw mat. Hassan, where do you live? He said, Father, I live here. He said, Hassan, where do you sleep? He said, do you see the straw mat? I sleep there and I cover myself with my abba. So Hassan, what's your pillow? He said, my pillow are my slippers. 2 years he lived like this. Hassan, what do you do in winter? He says, I'm okay. I just learned to live with the cold. Hassan, what do you eat? I eat bread, sometimes with vinegar. He said, my father broke down to tears. He came, he hugged me, he said, forgive me, Hassan. Forgive me. Whatever you want, I will help you from now. You go and study. Sometimes it just takes some patience, brothers and sisters. Sometimes it just takes some resistance. I'm not saying disobey your parents. No, never. But I'm saying find out what your duty is to Allah. And any hardship you're going to have in that way, buy it. This is what love makes you do. If you love someone, you're ready to take hardship for them. Allah's testing you. How strong can you be for my sake? And the help of Allah will surely come. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. How did each and every one of us feel when we heard that man called Haj Qasim was martyred? Go into that feeling and think now about the children of Abu Abdullah who are waiting for Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas to return to them. When he was there, they felt a sense of security. Someone's there to protect us. don't have much time. But let's visit one painful moment together, brothers and sisters. You know, until that time, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam had his family members, but there comes a time where he's very alone. Everyone's gone. Only the Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas is left, the standard bearer of his army. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas goes towards the river. It's related, imagine the thirst, imagine the hardship, imagine the heat of Karbala. It's related when he enters the river, he takes some water into his hands. Imagine the cool water flowing over the hands of this lion. He brings his hands towards his mouth. He's very thirsty. But the narrator says, I saw that before his hand reaches his mouth, he throws the water back into the river. What happened in that moment, Ya Abu Fadl? La ilaha illallah. How can someone be so much in love, so loyal? It said, you know what made him throw the water back into the river? He remembered the thirst of Abu Abdullah. Oh self, how can you think of drinking water when Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is thirsty? La ilaha illallah. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas has such a magnificent station. It's as if it was destined from the beginning of this world's creation that in Karbala there will be two shrines facing one another. There will be the dome of Abu Abdullah, all the shuhada on one side beside him, and this one shaheed facing the dome of Abu Abdullah. Abbas needs a haram of his own. There needs to be a Bayn al-Haramain in Karbala. On one side is Abbas, on the other side is Hussein. These two inseparable brothers and lovers, la ilaha illallah. It's related that on the night before Ashura, or the day before Ashura rather, Shimr ibn al-Jawshan, that Mal'oon, is related to al-Baneen, the mother of Abu Fadl. He calls out to the camp of Hussein, where are my nephews Abbas, Uthman, Ja'far, and so on and so forth. Because Abu Fadl was martyred alongside his three brothers. Al-Baneen gave 4 children on the day of Ashura. Abu Fadl doesn't even answer him, even though he's a relative. Al-Hussein says, even though he's a fasiq, he's a sinful man, go and answer him. When Al-Hussein commands him, he goes. He says, what do you want? He says, I've brought you safety. I've brought you safety, O sons of my sister. Don't be killed alongside Al-Hussein. Come to the side of Yazid and be saved. You know what he says? He says, are you giving us safety while the son of Zahra gets no safety? Cursed is your safety and cursed are you. La ilaha illallah. But there's one moment I want us to visit together, brothers and sisters. You know, Abu Abdullah was so patient. The angels were astounded at his patience and resilience. But there was one moment I don't dare to utter the words, his patience ended. May Allah forgive anyone who says this. Never. His patience never ended. But there was one moment his heart was shaken. When was that moment? You know what it's related? It's related that there was one moment in Ashura where it says, when Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas was martyred, بان الانكسار على وجه الحسين. Have you ever seen a face of a man where you can see brokenness is on that face? The Maqtal says when Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas was martyred, the face of al-Hussein was looking broken. And he called out, Al-ana inkasar al-Zahra. Now my back has been broken. صلى الله عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس صلى الله عليك يا باب الحوائج روحي لك الفداء. Oh Allah, make us loyal, make us brave, make us lovers like this standard bearer of Abu Abdullah. Grant us the tawfiq to raise children who will carry the flag of Imam Sahib al-Zaman. Sallallahu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. يا عطشان يا غريب.
عباس سے کہتی تھی یہ فوج ستمارا دریا ہے ہمارا بہتر ہے اگر آپ کریں اس سے کنارہ دریا ہے ہمارا. عباس سے کہتی تھی یہ فوج ستمارا دریا ہے ہمارا. آنے کی یہاں شام کے حاکم کی قبر ہے سب زیر و زبر ہے سب زیر و زبر ہے. کل صبح کو گر جائے گا میدان یہ سارا دریا ہے ہمارا. عباس سے کہتی تھی یہ فوج ستمارا دریا ہے ہمارا. یہ سنتے ہی عباس کے اب روپا بلایا بڑھ کر یہ سنایا بڑھ کر یہ سنایا ہرگز نہیں تم لوگوں کا کچھ اس میں اجارہ دریا ہے ہمارا. عباس سے کہتی تھی یہ فوج ستمارا دریا ہے ہمارا. پیاسے رہے میدان میں واسطے پیمبر سیراب و لشکر سیراب و لشکر ایک دم میں الٹ دوں گا صفوں کو ستمارا دریا ہے ہمارا. عباس سے کہتی تھی یہ فوج ستمارا دریا ہے ہمارا. لشکر کو ہٹا کر یہ صدا شیر کی آئی کس کی ہے ترائی کس کی ہے ترائی بتلاؤ کے قبضے میں ہے اب کس کے کنارہ دریا ہے ہمارا. عباس سے کہتی تھی یہ فوج ستمارا دریا ہے ہمارا. زینب نے کہا شاہ سے گھبراتی ہوں بھائی ہووے نہ لڑائی ہووے نہ لڑائی. لے آئیے عباس کو یہ کہہ کے خدا را دریا ہے ہمارا. عباس سے کہتی تھی یہ فوج ستمارا دریا ہے ہمارا. 10ویں کو محرم کی قیامت ہوئی بسمل، رو دیتے تھے قاتل، رو دیتے تھے قاتل، ساحل پکڑے آج جو کرتے تھے اشارہ، دریا ہے ہمارا۔ عباس سے کہتی تھی یہ فوج ستمارا، دریا ہے ہمارا، بہتر ہے اگر آپ کریں اس سے کنارہ، دریا ہے ہمارا۔ انتما سے دعا۔
مزمل بھائی بسم اللہ۔
جی، بازو بھی نہیں تھے جو سہارا اسے ملتا، جب زین سے زمین پر میرا عباس گرا تھا، بازو بھی نہیں تھے جو سہارا اسے ملتا، جب زین سے زمین پر میرا عباس گرا تھا، کہ رو رو کے یہ زینب سے بکا کرتے تھے شبیر، بھائی بھی ہمارا گیا مارا میری ہمشیر، ہم ہو گئے اس دشت و بیابان میں تنہا، جب زین سے زمین پر میرا عباس گرا تھا، بازو بھی نہیں تھے جو سہارا اسے ملتا، جب زین سے زمین پر میرا عباس گرا تھا، ایک تیر تھا ایک آنکھ میں اور ایک میں خون تھا، زخموں سے میرا شیر لہو میں تھا نہایا، پر مشک سکینہ کو تھا دانتوں سے دبایا، جب زین سے زمین پر میرا عباس گرا تھا، اے مجھ کو علمدار کے گھوڑے یہ بتا تو، جھکنے کے لیے سوہے زمیں کیا تھا گیا تو، کیا ایسے میں پاؤں کو نہیں تو نے تھا موڑا، جب زین سے زمین پر میرا عباس گرا تھا، بازو بھی نہیں تھے جو سہارا اسے ملتا، جب زین سے زمین پر میرا عباس گرا تھا، اب کوئی نہیں آئے گا زینب کو بچانے، جلتے ہوئے خیموں کی کوئی آگ بجھانے، اب چھننے کو چادر ہے یہ زینب کو پتا تھا، اب زین سے زمین پر میرا عباس گرا تھا، کہ بچوں بچوں کو بھی امید تھی لائے گا وہ پانی، پیاس اس کو دکھاتے تھے وہ اشکوں کی زبانی، بعد اس کے سکینہ نے بھی پانی نہیں مانگا، جب زین سے زمین پر میرا عباس گرا تھا، یہ خم آ گیا عباس کے مرنے سے کمر میں، چھوڑا ہے میرا ساتھ میرے بھائی سفر میں، تھا آخری میرا جو سہارا وہی ٹوٹا، جب زین سے زمین پر میرا عباس گرا تھا، کہ عباس قلم تیرا مزمل کی صدا ہے، عباس گرا ہے تبھی اسلام کھڑا ہے، اس وقت نہیں دین کے پرچم کو اٹھایا، جب زین سے زمین پر میرا عباس گرا تھا، کہ بازو بھی نہیں تھے جو سہارا سے ملتا، جب زین سے زمین پر میرا عباس گرا تھا۔ اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد۔
Hussein, ya Hussein, ya Hussein, ya Abbas, ya Abbas, ya Abbas, ya Abbas, ya Hussein, ya Hussein, ya Hussein, ya Imam.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين وابن السيد الوصيل، السلام عليك يا سيدي فاطمة الزهراء سلام الله عليها، السلام عليك يا إمام الحسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، والأرواح التي حلفت بها عليكم من جميع
صلوات
الليل والنهار، ولا جعل الله الآخر لحظي مني إلى زيارتكم، السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، السلام عليك يا جميع شهداء كربلاء والأخص، السلام عليك يا سقاء السقينة، يا باب الهوائج، يا قمر بني هاشم على الدار، يا عباس، السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا مولانا يا غريب الغرباء، يا من الضعفاء والفقراء، السلام عليك يا إمام الشمس شموس وأنيس النفوس، يا غريب الدوس، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان، علمان 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 من فتنة زمان الشر والشيطان، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن وقائبة الإيمان، عجل الله تعالى وفرجك وسح الله مخرجك ولهورك إن شاء الله، السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته،
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
صلوات اللهم صل على محمد اللهم كل حجة حسن صلواتك عليه وعلى عباده في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة، وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين۔ اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد۔ ہمارے بابا دیگر صلوات۔
ناظرین بہت بہت شکریہ آپ حضرات کا جو آپ لوگ مسلسل نور کے ساتھ تعاون فرما رہے ہیں اور مجلسوں کا سلسلہ جاری و ساری ہے۔ انشاءاللہ 12 محرم تک اس سینٹر سے انشاءاللہ مجلسوں کا سلسلہ جاری رہے گا، جس سے مولانا سید حیدر حسنین خطاب فرماتے ہیں۔ آپ حضرات ابھی بھی ہمارے ساتھ تعاون فرما سکتے ہیں انشاءاللہ مجلسوں کے ذریعے اسپانسر کر کے، اپنے مرحومین کی سورہ فاتحہ کا اہتمام کر کے، اور خمس کا پیسہ بھی آپ ہمارے تک پہنچا سکتے ہیں انشاءاللہ، وہ بھی آپ کے اس کار خیر میں صرف ہو سکتا ہے۔ اور نور کے لڑکے جس طرح آپ جانتے ہیں ان کی ہمت افزائی کیجیے گا، وہ قرآن کلاسز یہاں مسلسل ہوتی ہیں، انہی کے بچے انشاءاللہ سورہ یاسین اور دعائے فرج کی تلاوت فرماتے ہیں. زیادہ سے زیادہ بچوں کو بھیجائیے تاکہ نور کی یہ جو ایک سلسلہ چل رہا ہے مسلسل، اور اتنے اچھے ہمارے پاس سے عالم میں جو معلم ہے جناب ابو جواد صاحب، بچوں کو جو قرآن کی تعلیم دیتے ہیں 1 to 1، اس سے استفادہ کیجیے گا انشاءاللہ. اور میں نے جو پچھلی بار ہی بتایا تھا آپ کو، محرم عاشورے کا پروگرام اس طرح کا کچھ رہے گا کہ 12 بجے اعمال عاشورہ آن لائن مولانا کے ساتھ آپ بجا لا سکتے ہیں، اور اس کے بعد انشاءاللہ عصر عاشور کی مجلس فوراً نماز ظہرین کے بعد 1:30 بجے شروع ہو جائے گی، اور شام غریبہ کی مجلس انشاءاللہ بعد مغرب 8:30 بجے ہوگی انشاءاللہ. یہ تمام پروگرام سے ضرور شرکت فرمائیے گا. خبر کروں گا کہ چین دنیا میں ملے، راحت عقبیٰ مل جائے، شدت عشق ملے، غم کا سلیقہ مل جائے، کاسہ دل یہ حاضر ہے در دولت پر، فاطمہ آپ کی اولاد کا صدقہ مل جائے. اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. والسلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ.